We have killed the giant, we have slain Goliath, we have killed the giant, we have slain Goliath, hallelujah. Amen.
First, I just want to say thank you to the Bridge Ministries for thinking of me. To be quite honest, I will be very honest with you. I have no problem singing. That's my favorite thing to do. But to ask me to speak, it takes a lot for me to come up and speak to you. But I pray that you will hear the message that God has for us today. I also want to thank Pastor Cadet for praying with me and for his encouraging words. And with that, if you would please bow your heads for prayer. Dear Father, your spirit is in this place. We feel you all around us. And so God, in this moment, Lord, you know how I feel. You know my background. You know I have a father that preaches. And you know how intimidating I find speaking to be. But God, if you would just touch my tongue with hyssop, if you would just move on my behalf, I don't want people to see me. God, I want people to see you. Today, we want to kill Goliath in this place right now. And so, God, we ask in this place that your spirit will fall like never before. In Jesus' name, amen. It was an August summer day. I was in my 3rd year of graduate school. And to be honest, it was the most miserable time in my life. See, I was one of 2 black women in my graduate class of approximately 150 students. But I had also chosen the most difficult supervisor in my program. For all those who worked under this supervisor, we could never do anything right. Something was always wrong. And so if you wanted positive reinforcement, you had to talk to Jesus because you were not going to get it from him. So by my 3rd year of graduate school, I was miserable, to say the least. I only came home with complaints because, again, nothing seemed to go well. But this August summer day would change my life forever. It was a beautiful day, you see. I had about 5 samples to look at using that microscope that you see right there. It's called the Joel 1400. It's a transmission electron microscope. And so what I would do is put the samples in that microscope. You see that there's stairs in front of the microscope because I wasn't tall enough to put the liquid nitrogen at the top. And so I was looking at each sample. Everything was going well, right? I wanted cubes, I was seeing cubes. If I made nanostars, I saw them. And I said, you know what, God, you're finally working on my behalf. Because at that time, I was struggling. I had to get 3 papers in order to graduate. Barely had one. So at this point, I'm down to my last sample. So I'm feeling excited. I'm like, Lord, you're working on my behalf. You are doing everything you said you were going to do. And in my exuberance, I go, and it's interesting, because as I'm telling this story, feelings are coming back. Because I know exactly what's going to happen. But Crystal at the time has no idea. In my excitement, I take the sample holder and I turn it out too fast. And I hear a popping sound. Now, what that basically meant was that air had now gone into the microscope, and we call that a loss of suction. set in that moment. Now, I knew that that wouldn't be a huge issue, but I turned to the sample holder and I saw that the tip was broken. Now that is the moment where I felt like a failure. And you might ask yourself, why did you feel like a failure? Well, the tip of that microscope, that pink sample holder, it cost approximately $100,000. $100,000. Now, Crystal did not know this. So I went to the supervisor for the microscope and I said, look, this is what has happened. And I said, before I knew the price, I will willingly pay for it. He told me plainly, you will not be able to afford it. And not only that, that same microscope would be unavailable for 2 weeks. Now, you might say, okay, that's not too much of a big deal, but being the only one of 2 black women in the graduate school and having the reputation that you were the one that broke the microscope so that no one else can use it for 2 weeks, it wasn't a good look. And so in that moment, I picked up my bags, and I just ran out to my car. And instantly in that moment, my supervisor calls me, the last person I wanted to talk to. And of course, the questions were, what are you doing? Why aren't you here? Just questions after questions. And I'm like, God, why am I going through this right now? And so after I finished talking to my supervisor, I called my mother. I told her I am tired. I am frustrated. It's as if every time I take 10 steps forward, somehow I gotta take 35 steps back. I don't understand. I'm praying. I'm doing everything right. I see people that don't even believe in you, God, and they're ahead of me. What's going on? And so in that moment, I told my mother that death would be better than this. I said it out loud, and my body froze. I felt myself shudder, because even my body couldn't believe what I just said. And it's interesting how when you feel so hopeless, the things you will allow yourself to say. It's a really interesting thing that happened to me. I knew something was wrong. Now, if you know Crystal has a phobia for death. I don't like the thought of dying. So once I said that, I knew something was wrong. So that by the time I broke the microscope, I felt as though God had truly let me down. I had been trying to fight feelings of depression for a while. Though I cried every Sunday night at the thought of going to school the following Monday morning. But the day I broke the microscope, I felt that I mentally broke that day as well. So what do you do when clearly it seems that God has placed you in front of insurmountable odds? What do you do when the war that is raging is not something that you can touch, it's not something that you can see, but it's raging within you? My friends, we must understand the mental giant warring inside of us. So now let's identify, I wish you can see it, okay, good. Let's identify what the giant has the ability to do. So first, approximately 10% of teenagers say that they have not been influenced by peer pressure. So another way to say that is 90% of teenagers are influenced by peer pressure. That's a huge number, that's the majority. Another statistic says, and this is based on the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, 1,000 teenagers will have a depressive disorder before they turn the age of 18 years old. Now, anxiety disorder happens to about 20% approximately of the US population at 14 million adults. The CDC also says that 85% of the world's population, 85%, suffers from low self-esteem. So this is basically the entire world. And lastly, in 2015, the CDC reported that suicide was the second leading cause of death between the ages of 18 and 35. And I think it's very interesting that this is the age range when you're in college, in graduate school, or even experiencing your first job. Now, let's establish what the characteristics of a giant are. Now, we see this in 1 Samuel 17:4. If you can go there with me. 1 Samuel 17:4. Now, this message is not going to be your typical David and Goliath. We all know the story, correct? All hands, right? Okay. This is going to be more of a David and Goliath 201 course. And so it reads, 1 Samuel 17:4, it says, "And there went a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span." That's approximately 9 feet and 6 inches tall. And so what we see is that Goliath, has a strong appearance. But we not only see that, we see that he is well protected. It continues in verse 5, it says, "And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of that coat was 5,000 shekels, or approximately 100 pounds. So now we see that he has a strong appearance. But the next aspect is he is the loudest person in the room. And we'll get to that in the next slide. But what I do want to give to you is the message that his message is also repetitive. And so we see that. We see that in 1 Samuel 17:16, where he goes on to say, and it says, "And the Philistine," that is Goliath, "drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. So that means twice a day, for 40 days, Goliath is torturing the Israelites with his message. And now, the last characteristics of a giant. He makes his demand, and he expects obedience. What he calls for is one-on-one combat. He doesn't want to fight you in a group. He wants to fight you alone. And so let's look at the objective now of Goliath. And we see that in 1 Samuel 17:8 and 9, where it says, "And he stood and cried out." You see the loudest voice in the room. "He cried out unto the armies of Israel and said unto them, Why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and ye servants of Saul? Choose a man for you, one-on-one combat, and let him come down to me." Expects obedience. "If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall we be our servants and serve us." Now, it tells me that the objective of a giant is to kill our destiny, but also ensure and establish dominion over us. Now, you might ask me, okay, Crystal, we're talking about mental giants here, but what does that have to do with anything? Well, there is a term called your inner critic. Another phrase for that is your critical inner voice. It is a concept used in popular psychology or psychotherapy to refer to a sub-personality that judges and demeans a person. Now, what I didn't realize is your inner critic always says negative things, because the objective is to demean you. It's never positive. loudest person in the room. And I'll discuss what that means a little later. But once you have your inner critic, what develops is your negative thoughts. Now, it uses its influence, repetition, to build its power. And the objective of your negative thoughts is to surrender your power. Now, according to the National Science Foundation, concerning human thought, the average human has about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. 80% of them are negative. Wow. 95% of those negative thoughts are repetitive. So let me give you an example of what your inner critic and how your inner critic and your negative thoughts play. If a person comes to me and tells me, oh, you did such a wonderful job when you sang, guess what ends up happening? I say in my head, thank you, praise God. But what my mind is really saying is, oh, you didn't really hear those cracks that I just said. Those runs weren't all that. I can work on my breathing. That is your inner critic. The underlying message is, I'm not good enough. But because your thoughts, what you hear are the thoughts, you don't realize that that's the message that you're constantly repeating to yourself. Now, once that tape begins to play in your mind, then a belief system is built. And now you are under the bondage of your inner critic. Now, what we don't realize is that these giants come in different forms. So I don't want to just focus on Goliath. We will get to him. But these repetitive messages come from many different sources. The first one being Goliath. Isn't it funny how sometimes the most critical things you experience and hear is from family? Isn't it interesting? Well, we're going to go to 1 Samuel 17:20, verse 28. And it says, and Goliath, his eldest brother, this is David's eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men, and Goliath's anger was kindled against David. Because David is trying to inquire of Goliath, who is this Philistine? What happens if we beat him? His anger was kindled against David. And he said, why camest thou hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride, and the naughtiness of thine heart. Other translations say, wickedness of thine heart. For thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. Now what's interesting is his first question said instantly, you don't belong here. Why are you even here? The second question, why aren't you tending the sheep? He is the firstborn son. So that basically means that David was taking care of his inheritance. Why aren't you doing your role? Your role is to take care of my inheritance. I don't care that you were anointed to be king. That doesn't matter to me. Your role is to be under me. This is how mental giants work. And so if you've ever been in a family where it tends to be always negative, you're so stupid. I don't know why you said that. That is, again, your inner critic coming from a different source. And once we believe it, and that's what the enemy wants, for us to believe it and make sure that it becomes our belief system. But that is not the only mental giant that David had to overcome. And what's interesting about his response is, David just answered a question with a question. He just simply said, what have I done to you? And then he walked away. Now let me be honest. I look like a very sweet person. But if you tell me that I'm wicked and that I have pride, we're going to have some problems. I can't say that I will just come and say, what have I done to you? And walk away. But look at David. David was on a mission. David didn't care what his older brother had to say. He was on a mission. But that wasn't the only mental giant. There was also Saul, who was his leader. More than likely someone he looked up to, who also tells him, as he goes to Saul, and it says in 1 Samuel 17, 17:32, and David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." And David said unto Saul, "Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock." And now he begins to express and describe how he won the battle. But what's interesting about this is even those who are your bosses at work, those that you have to work under, they too, not knowing the anointing on your life, will say to you, "You can't do it." It's so interesting how when you have a dream in your heart, the last places or the last people you need to tell is your family or people that are you're beneath. Because the first thing they want to say is, "What's that? Why are you even thinking that? You should just stick to what you're doing." Again, another inner critic from a different source that the enemy is trying to use, hoping that you just might believe it. So, with that being said, let us now look at Goliath. Now we talk about his strong exterior, but what looks like a giant's strength is actually the source of his weakness. First, we talk about his height. Now, in a research conducted by a scientist, Dr. Vladimir Bergener, on a man named Robert, who was approximately 8 feet tall, it was found that his gigantism came with a few defects. One of them being visual field restriction. Now, what's interesting about this is within the text of David and Goliath, there is a possibility that Goliath might have had this same issue. And if we go to 1 Samuel 17:40, it says, "And David took his staff in his hand," this is when he's about to go and fight Goliath, "and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in his shepherd's bag, which he had, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine." Now, if we go now down to verse 43, am I in the right place? Yes. I want where it says, yes, thank you. And it says, "And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest to me with sticks?" It's interesting that he said the word sticks when David only had one staff. So the possibility exists that he couldn't see David as well as it might seem. In a similar way, our inner critic has a skewed perspective of the world we live in, and not the entire picture. It doesn't account for the purpose of God. The purpose that God has in store for us contradicts logic. Now, the second one, though the giant may look fully protected, again, it is only appearances. Though the giant looks impressive, he lacks speed and agility to match his strength. Similarly, the inner critic relies upon repetition for control, but not speed. And so you see, actually, the giant is very weak. So I mentioned to you before, what do you do when you're clearly no match for the giant inside of you? What do you do when the war isn't someplace that you can touch or feel? And so I want to leave you with push. The first, choose a healthy perspective and refuse to submit to your inner critic, Goliath. Now, one of my favorite ministers usually says the problem isn't the problem is our perspective. And what we see is David never had a negative emotion. Not once did he focus on Goliath's stature. He only wanted to do the will of his father. And to give an example from my life, I remember there was after I think 6 months before I was about to graduate, I still only had one paper to my name. And I needed to get that paper through. But guess what? I said, you know what, you're gonna make a way. I had 3 papers that I sent in to the journal review, and back to back to back, they all rejected me. So now I'm wondering, how am I gonna graduate? My back was against the wall, because guess what? There was no way I was gonna spend another year with the supervisor I had. So I tell you, I ran to my room and I screamed in a way that my brother raced in the room because he thought someone was trying to kill me. That's how much pain I felt, because my back was indeed against the wall. I said, God, I have nothing left. I have nothing left, and I'm trying everything. I'm doing everything that I need to do. But yet again, my back is still against the wall. Now let me tell you my God. In a matter of 2 months, I cannot to this day explain to you how it happened. But every single paper that was once rejected was then literally accepted. To this day, whenever I talk to other doctors, they always tell me, how did you do it in a matter of 6 months? All I can say is God. All I can say is God. What I didn't realize at the time was that what I went through had nothing to do with me. That God was trying to use my pain to birth purpose. That God was trying to use my pain to birth a ministry. That God was trying to use my pain to minister to somebody else, to say, you can get through anxiety. You can get through depression. You can get through addiction. Whatever mental struggles you have, God can make a way. So one of the ways to change your perspective is to ask the question in the midst of your issue, God, what is the purpose of this? What is the lesson I need to learn right now? What do I need to take from this? I'll tell you this, you may not get the answer right away. I didn't get that answer until 5 years later when I wrote my book. That's when I found out. Now, the other thing I want to encourage you as well is when these tough times come, refuse to go into the rabbit hole of negative thinking, because it's a drug. I don't know about you, but once I start thinking negative, I can't stop. So refuse to allow your emotions to control you by changing your perspective. Next, embrace the unknown. And honestly, that's hard for me to say because I'm a very controlling person. I do not like the unknown. Don't ask me to walk on water because we're not doing it. Scientifically, it doesn't make sense, so guess what? No, thank you. But we have to learn to embrace it. That even in good times, Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, our times are in his hands. So it means no matter what is good or bad, God is never surprised. He has it all under his control. And so submit to the process and understand that your pain is the foundation for your ministry. Thirdly, incorporate positive speech patterns. Now, this is my favorite. This is my favorite because this is the way that really David decided to use his agility to kill Goliath. First thing in the morning, well, let me go back a little bit. Remember, my self-limiting belief is I'm not enough, right? So what I did is I tried to use academics to prove that. So I was an A student in high school, check it. A student in college, check again. All right? Not really an A student in graduate school, but we made it work. Check. And honestly, at that point, that should have at least proved to me that you can do this. But when I went into my first job, I realized I was still plagued with anxiety, where constant thoughts kept playing in my head. What if you do this wrong? What if this is not right? Did you say the right thing? Constantly in my mind, I said something is wrong. We've got to do something. So what I did is I used biblical affirmations. So every single morning, before I get up, I say, Lord, I thank you for this day. Today is going to be a great day. I say, Lord, I am favored. I am blessed. I have God ideas. I live in peace. I walk in peace. No weapons formed shall come to me. God, you are warring on my behalf. You can do all things. I can do all things through you, God. And that is how I go through my day. Now, to be honest, when I first did it, I didn't really believe it, right? So there's something that you can do called shock showers, right? And so what you do is you have the water running normally, see the temperature that you like best, and then you instantly switch it to cold. And then you have to scream out your affirmations. Now, it's very intense, I won't lie. But for someone like me, I needed to dig deep. So I did one of those shock showers. And to be honest, I noticed that individuals, when I was at work, they were looking at me and they were saying, you're different today. I thought that was really interesting because somehow the confidence that I had declared in the morning, people were now experiencing it. So incorporate positive speech patterns. And we saw that David did the same thing. He did the same thing. He said in verse 16, it says, then David said to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword, with a spear, with a shield, but I come in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel. Then he chose fighting words. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will not only smite you, but I'm also going to take your head off. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and the wild beasts of the earth, and the earth may know that there is a God. We have to declare that. I think sometimes we think that our prayers are just like, Lord, help me out. Declare the promises of God. God knows. He just needs you to declare a thing so that it can be established in the earth. God wants us to know that we have all power in our hands. It says we are more than conquerors. We are an overcomer. The word overcomer, for those who don't know, is the Greek word Nike Sasa. And that is actually where we get Nike. Nike means to overcome. So we are a Nike Sasa. And I want you to say that. I am a Nike Sasa. I know it sounds kind of weird, so let's just adjust our tongue, okay? Let's loosen it up a little bit. Even for me, I have to adjust to it too. I am a Nike Sasa. I am a Nike Sasa. One more time. I am a Nike Sasa. And I want every time, every morning, say that I am an overcomer. I am a problem solver. I have God ideas. The Word of God says, let this mind be in you. That was also in Christ Jesus. We have access to the mind of God. We should never be the tail. We were meant to be the head. We were meant to be leaders. We were meant to be more. And so, last but not least, watch all heaven work on your behalf. Amen. And I tell you, in my life, when my back was against the wall, I didn't know how I was going to get 3 papers done in 6 months. But the way my God works, I would not only get those papers done, I would get 2 awards for my research. The same research that I was behind everybody else in. But see, that's how God works. He wants you to be behind. He wants you to lag behind so that His glory can shine forth. We see that in John 9 with the blind man. They asked the question to the disciples, why is he blind? Is it because of his sins? Is it because of his parents' sins? And he said, no, neither. It is so that my glory can be revealed. And so I really pray and I hope, and we'll get into some practical tools, because I don't believe in just talking about the spiritual when we don't give application. But right now in this moment, I just want anyone, if you're going through a tough time in terms of your thought patterns, I really want to pray for you, because I want deliverance to take place right now.